Blood dripped from Eliza's trembling fingers onto the crumpled eviction notice as she stared at the child standing before her at the bus stop. The 8-year-old girl, dressed in what appeared to be a custom Burberry coat worth more than Eliza's entire life savings, had just uttered the most bizarre proposition she'd ever heard: "You need a home, and I need a mommy. I have $20 million in a trust fund. Help me escape my guardian, and I'll give you everything you need." Eliza's heart hammered against her ribs as she glanced around the deserted bus stop. Was this some kind of elaborate prank? The child, who had introduced herself as Penelope Blackwood, clutched a leather portfolio containing what looked like legitimate financial documents and a newspaper clipping about the tragic death of tech billionaire James Blackwood and his wife in a yacht accident last year. "My uncle is stealing my inheritance," Penelope whispered, her eyes darting nervously toward the sleek black car slowly cruising down the street. "He's coming for me now. Please. I ran away this morning. If you don't help me, I'll lose everything, and you might too." The approaching car's tinted window lowered, revealing a man with cold eyes scanning the bus stop. Eliza had exactly 3 seconds to decide: walk away from this bizarre encounter or believe the desperate child standing before her. With nothing left to lose after being fired yesterday and evicted today, she made her choice. Grabbing Penelope's small hand, Eliza pulled them both behind the bus shelter just as the car accelerated toward them. For the next 3 days, Eliza and Penelope moved between budget motels, using only cash from the emergency fund Penelope had hidden in her teddy bear. The girl's knowledge of financial matters was unnervingly advanced for her age, yet she still cried herself to sleep clutching that same stuffed animal. Eliza found herself developing a fierce protectiveness over this strange, brilliant child who seemed simultaneously 8 and 80 years old. "My parents weren't really on that yacht," Penelope confessed one night as they shared a vending machine dinner. "That's what Uncle Malcolm told everyone, but I overheard him on the phone. I think they're alive somewhere, being kept away from me until he can get control of everything." Her small fingers traced the pattern on the motel bedspread. "The trust fund has conditions. If I die or disappear, everything goes to charity. That's why he hasn't," she swallowed hard, "gotten rid of me. But he's made my life miserable, hoping I'll sign over control when I turn 10 next month." Eliza's journalism degree, useless for finding stable employment in the current economy, suddenly seemed valuable as she began connecting dots. Using the motel's spotty Wi-Fi, she researched James Blackwood's empire and found troubling inconsistencies in the reported yacht accident. No bodies recovered. Minimal investigation. Malcolm Blackwood appointed guardian and interim CEO within 48 hours. On the 4th day, while Penelope slept, Eliza's phone lit up with a news alert: "Missing heiress, $500,000 reward." Her photo appeared alongside Penelope's, labeled as a dangerous kidnapper with possible mental health issues. The walls seemed to close in around her. She had become a fugitive overnight, and the evidence against her would be overwhelming: a recently fired, homeless woman suddenly disappearing with a billionaire child. Just as Eliza contemplated surrendering to authorities, Penelope's teddy bear began to ring. Not metaphorically, actually ring. The child groggily reached inside a hidden compartment and extracted a satellite phone. "Daddy," she whispered, fully awake now. "You got my message?" Eliza froze as Penelope handed her the phone. "He wants to talk to you." "Ms. Chen," said a voice that sounded nothing like the James Blackwood from television interviews. "My daughter chose well. We've been watching you since she approached you. I apologize for the deception, but we needed to know if you were trustworthy." The man explained that he and his wife had faked their deaths after discovering Malcolm's embezzlement scheme, but couldn't take Penelope immediately without endangering her life. "We've gathered enough evidence now, but need someone on the inside. Someone Malcolm doesn't know is connected to us." The plan was audacious. Eliza would return Penelope, claiming she'd found the lost child and had no idea about her identity. The reward money would give her credibility. Who would kidnap someone, then return them for less money than the ransom could have been? Malcolm would be suspicious but couldn't act against her without raising questions. Once inside their world, Eliza would help gather the final evidence needed to expose Malcolm's crimes. "Why me?" Eliza asked, her voice barely audible. "Because," James replied, "before you were fired, you were investigating corporate fraud at one of our subsidiaries. Your editor killed the story after pressure from Malcolm. You have the skills we need, and more importantly, my daughter trusts you. She's an excellent judge of character." Penelope squeezed Eliza's hand. "I didn't lie about needing a mommy," she whispered. "Mine is alive, but I haven't seen her in almost a year. Until then, I need someone brave. Please." 3 weeks later, Eliza sat in the opulent Blackwood mansion, now employed as Penelope's tutor and companion. The reward money had secured her a modest apartment she rarely used, as Malcolm insisted she stay in the guest suite to provide stability for his traumatized niece. Every night, she documented conversations and photographed documents, sending them through an encryption system hidden in Penelope's educational tablet. Malcolm's mask slipped occasionally, a harsh word when frustrated, a threatening glance when Penelope mentioned her parents. During a dinner with potential investors, he drank too much and cornered Eliza in the hallway. "You know, I've been watching you," he slurred, his hand against the wall blocking her path. "Something doesn't add up. A homeless nobody suddenly becomes the hero who finds my niece? I don't believe in coincidences." Before Eliza could respond, Penelope appeared, her expression unervingly adult. "Uncle Malcolm, your guests are asking for you." When he left, she whispered, "Be careful. The last tutor who got too curious had an accident." That night, Eliza discovered her room had been searched. The next morning, Malcolm announced he was sending Penelope to a Swiss boarding school, in 3 days. Their timeline had just collapsed. In a desperate midnight meeting in the garden's gazebo, Eliza met James and Catherine Blackwood in person for the first time. Catherine embraced her with tears, thanking her for protecting her daughter. "We're moving tomorrow night," James explained. "The evidence is almost ready, but Malcolm's getting suspicious. It's too dangerous to wait." As they finalized escape plans, a security guard's flashlight beam swept across the garden. The Blackwoods disappeared into the shadows as Eliza pretended to be enjoying a late-night reading session. The guard seemed satisfied, but as she returned to her room, she noticed Malcolm's office light was on. Through the crack in the door, she saw him examining footage from hidden cameras, including one showing the gazebo meeting. The next morning, Penelope was gone. Her bed was empty, the room immaculate. Malcolm greeted Eliza at breakfast with a triumphant smile. Penelope decided she was excited about Switzerland after all. She left early this morning. His eyes never left Eliza's face. "Such a shame you couldn't say goodbye." Eliza maintained her composure through breakfast, then raced to her room to activate the emergency signal. No response. The satellite phone in the teddy bear was missing. Every contingency plan had been compromised. With Malcolm watching her every move and Penelope missing, Eliza made a desperate decision. She would need to find evidence on her own, tonight, before Malcolm could move against the Blackwoods. Using the skills from her investigative journalism days, Eliza bypassed the security on Malcolm's private computer. What she found wasn't just evidence of embezzlement, but something far worse. Malcolm had been systematically eliminating anyone who threatened his position, including planning the accidents that were supposed to kill James and Catherine. Most disturbing was a deleted calendar entry for tomorrow, permanent solution. As she downloaded the files onto a hidden drive, the office door swung open. Malcolm stood there, flanked by 2 security guards. "I had such hopes for you, Eliza," he sighed, gesturing for the guards to grab her. "You could have had a comfortable life if you just minded your business. Now you'll disappear, just like the others who got too close." Where is Penelope? Eliza demanded, backing toward the window. Malcolm laughed. Somewhere you'll never. A deafening alarm cut him off as the mansion's security system activated. The lights went out, plunging them into darkness. In the confusion, Eliza slipped past them into the hallway. Guided only by emergency lights, she raced through the mansion, searching for any sign of Penelope. A small hand suddenly grabbed hers from inside a hidden passage behind a bookcase. This way, Penelope whispered. Daddy taught me all the secret ways out. They emerged in the garage where James waited in a nondescript sedan. Catherine's creating a diversion at the front gate, he explained as they sped toward the service entrance. The evidence you found is the final piece we needed. The authorities are already moving on Malcolm's offshore accounts. As they approached the gate, a black SUV screeched into their path. Malcolm emerged, pointing a gun directly at their windshield. Did you really think I wouldn't have contingencies of my own? He shouted. James accelerated suddenly, swerving around the SUV in a maneuver that sent Malcolm diving for cover. As they crashed through the gate, Eliza held Penelope tightly, the child's face buried against her shoulder. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. 6 months later, Eliza sat on the porch of a lakeside cabin, watching Penelope skip stones across the water with her mother. The trial had concluded with Malcolm facing multiple life sentences. The Blackwood family had reclaimed their company, with James implementing sweeping ethical reforms that Eliza now covered as head of their new investigative journalism division. You know, Catherine said, joining Eliza on the porch swing, she still calls you her bus stop mommy sometimes. Eliza smiled, watching Penelope's carefree play. I was so lost that day. I never imagined a child would end up saving me. That's the thing about family, James added, handing them both mugs of hot chocolate. Sometimes you find it in the most unexpected places. As the sun set over the lake, Penelope ran up to the porch and squeezed between Eliza and Catherine on the swing. I have 2 mommies now, she declared proudly. And that's even better than $20 million. Eliza hugged her close, reflecting on how a single choice at a bus stop had transformed everything. Sometimes the most important journeys begin when we're at our most lost, and the most precious connections come when we have nothing left to lose but our hearts. 3 years after Malcolm's conviction, the nightmares still came for Penelope. Eliza would find the 11-year-old in the kitchen at 3 a.m., making hot chocolate with trembling hands. I dreamed he found us again, she whispered on one such night, her eyes wide with remembered terror. He was smiling that smile, the one that never reached his eyes. Eliza wrapped her arms around the child who had changed her life. Though she now had her own cottage on the Blackwood estate and a thriving career heading their journalism division, she spent most nights in the main house. Some bonds couldn't be broken by conventional boundaries. Malcolm will never hurt you again, she promised, though a shadow of doubt crossed her face. The letter had arrived yesterday, unmarked, hand-delivered to her office. Inside, a single sentence, family secrets don't stay buried. The handwriting wasn't Malcolm's, but the implied threat was clear. Someone else knew something, and after 3 years of peace, their carefully reconstructed world was about to be tested again. James and Catherine had built a new life focused on transparency and ethics, both in business and family matters. They'd legally made Eliza Penelope's godmother, creating a family unit that defied convention but worked beautifully for them all. The press had eventually moved on to fresher scandals, leaving them to heal. Until now. There's something we never told you, James confessed the next evening after Penelope had gone to bed. He placed an old photograph on the table, a younger version of himself standing beside Malcolm and a third man, all in military uniforms. Before we were tech entrepreneurs, before the billions, Malcolm and I worked for a private military contractor. This is Victor Crane. He was our commanding officer, and Malcolm's mentor. Catherine continued where her husband faltered. Victor disappeared 10 years ago after certain operations came under investigation. We thought he was dead, but last week, facial recognition flagged him at an airport in Singapore. Her hands shook slightly. If he's resurfaced now, it's not coincidental. What does he want? Eliza asked, studying the photograph. Malcolm wasn't just embezzling from our company, James explained. He was funneling money to something called Project Prometheus, something from our past that was supposed to remain buried. Victor must be reactivating it, and he needs resources. Before Eliza could ask more questions, her phone chimed with a security alert. Someone had breached the estate's perimeter. Seconds later, the power cut out, plunging the house into darkness. "Get Penelope," James ordered, moving to a hidden panel in the wall that revealed a small arsenal. A remnant of his past life that he'd never fully abandoned. The panic room. Now. Eliza raced upstairs, heart pounding. Penelope's bed was empty, the window open, curtains billowing in the night breeze. On the pillow lay a small teddy bear, not her usual one, but a new bear with a red bow tie. Pinned to it was a note, "Time for a family reunion." "She's been trained for this," Catherine said, her voice eerily calm as they gathered in James' underground command center. The sophisticated setup. Military-grade communications equipment, multiple monitors showing security feeds from around the world, revealed another layer of the Blackwood family that Eliza had never seen. From the age of 4, Penelope has known exactly what to do if someone took her. James nodded grimly, typing commands that brought satellite imagery onto the main screen. "She'll activate her tracker when she feels safe enough. They won't expect her to have one. It's subdermally implanted and only activates with her specific biorhythm pattern." Eliza struggled to process this new reality. "You've been preparing for this her entire life?" "She's just a child." "She's a Blackwood," Catherine replied, her expression hardening into something unrecognizable. "And what you're seeing now is why we needed someone like you in her life. Someone who sees her as just a child, not a chess piece in a game that started before she was born." A red dot suddenly appeared on the digital map, moving rapidly across the Pacific. "There she is," James said, relief evident in his voice. "Heading toward the Philippines. Victor always favored Palawan for operations." "What exactly is Project Prometheus?" Eliza demanded. "What could possibly be worth kidnapping a child for?" The Blackwoods exchanged a look that sent chills down Eliza's spine. Finally, James spoke. "Immortality. Or something close to it. Experimental gene therapy that could extend human lifespan indefinitely. We were test subjects during our military days, the 3 of us and 17 others. Most died. Some changed. The project was officially terminated, but Victor never accepted that." "And Penelope?" Eliza whispered, dreading the answer. "Is the only second-generation subject who survived to birth," Catherine said quietly. "My other pregnancies all failed. She doesn't just have the modified genes. She's the only one whose body naturally produces the compound they were trying to synthesize. Her bone marrow, specifically." Eliza felt the floor tilt beneath her. "So this man took her to harvest her?" "Victor wouldn't harm her permanently," James said, though his expression betrayed his uncertainty. "He needs her alive and healthy to continue production. But he has no moral boundaries when it comes to achieving his goals." Within hours, they were airborne in the Blackwood private jet, accompanied by a team of former Special Forces operatives who apparently had been on the family payroll for years. Eliza sat apart, struggling to reconcile the family she thought she knew with these people who moved with military precision, discussing extraction scenarios and kill zones. "I understand if you want to step back from this," Catherine said, sitting beside her. "This isn't what you signed up for." Eliza met her gaze steadily. "I signed up for Penelope. Everything else is just details. The compound was hidden in dense jungle, accessible only by helicopter. As they prepared for insertion, James handed Eliza a lightweight bulletproof vest and a small sidearm. Last resort only, he instructed. Stay with the second team. Your job is to get to Penelope once we secure the area. The extraction began at dawn. Eliza waited with two operatives at the rendezvous point, listening to the tactical chatter through her earpiece. The first explosions rocked the compound as James' team breached the perimeter. Then came gunfire, shouts, and finally, James' voice: primary target secured. Moving to secondary extraction point. East wing compromised. They rushed forward through the jungle, reaching a small clearing where a helicopter waited. James emerged from the trees, carrying Penelope wrapped in a thermal blanket. The child was pale but conscious, her eyes finding Eliza immediately. "Bus stop, mommy," she whispered as Eliza took her into her arms. "I knew you'd come." As they lifted off, Eliza noticed something clutched in Penelope's hand, a small vial of amber liquid. "He made me help him," the child explained, her voice small but steady. "But I switched the samples. This is the real one. He has colored water." Catherine took the vial, securing it in a specialized container. "That's my brilliant girl." The helicopter suddenly lurched as bullets pinged against its armored hull. Through the window, Eliza saw a man standing in the clearing, silver-haired, military-bearing, his face contorted with rage as he fired upward. Victor Crane had lost this round. But as they flew to safety, Eliza couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger battle. The world would never stop hunting for what flowed in Penelope's veins, the promise of extended life that had already cost so many others theirs. 1 month after the rescue, the Blackwood family gathered in their lakeside home to make an impossible decision. The vial Penelope had saved contained enough of the compound for one treatment. One person could receive the longevity effects. Victor Crane remained at large, his resources diminished but his determination unchanged. "Destroy it," Penelope said firmly, surprising them all. At 11 years old, her experiences had given her wisdom beyond her years. "As long as it exists, people will keep coming for us." James nodded slowly. "She's right. We end this now, completely." But Catherine hesitated. "What about Penelope? This compound is in her bone marrow. They'll never stop hunting her." The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Eliza spoke. "There's another option. We make the formula public. Open source the research. If everyone can potentially produce it, no one person becomes a target." "The economic disruption would be catastrophic," James argued. "Healthcare systems, pension funds, insurance, all built on the assumption of finite human lifespans." "So we control the release," Eliza countered. "Establish a foundation to manage implementation. Make it your legacy instead of your burden." That night, as the adults continued their debate, Eliza found Penelope sitting on the dock, feet dangling in the water. "I don't want to be special anymore," the child confessed. "I just want to be normal." Eliza sat beside her. "Normal is overrated. But safe would be nice." Penelope leaned against her shoulder. "If we tell everyone, will I still need 2 mommies?" "Always," Eliza promised. "Some things aren't about necessity. They're about love." The decision was made by dawn. The Blackwood Foundation for Longevity Research was established with an initial endowment of $50 billion. The formula would be released in stages, with global oversight to prevent weaponization or restriction to only the wealthy. 6 months later, Victor Crane surrendered himself to authorities in exchange for a role in the research. His expertise, though tainted by his methods, was undeniable. Under strict supervision, he joined the Foundation's Scientific Advisory Board. "Keep your enemies closer," James explained to a skeptical Eliza. And sometimes, give them a chance at redemption. As the world grappled with the implications of potentially extended human lifespans, the Blackwood family found their own new normal. Penelope returned to school, a regular school with friends her age and teachers who knew nothing of her unique biology. Catherine led the Foundation's Ethical Oversight Committee. James focused on sustainable technologies to support a longer-lived population. And Eliza? She documented it all, writing the story that would eventually become the definitive account of humanity's transition to a new era. But more importantly, she remained Penelope's bus stop mommy, the unexpected family found in a moment of mutual need. On Penelope's 13th birthday, they returned to that same bus stop where it all began, now just an ordinary corner in a changing world. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd chosen someone else that day?" Penelope asked. Eliza smiled. "I think some connections are inevitable. If not that day, perhaps another." "Like destiny?" the girl asked skeptically. "Like recognizing your family when you find them," Eliza replied, "no matter where that happens to be." As they walked home together, not to a mansion or a hideout, but to a normal house on a quiet street where they now lived as a family of choice. Eliza reflected on how the most extraordinary journeys often begin with the simplest of human needs, a home, a family, and someone who sees you for exactly who you are. If this continuation of their story has touched your heart, remember that family comes in many forms, and sometimes our greatest strength lies in our connections to others. Share this with someone who has become your family by choice rather than blood, and subscribe for more stories about the extraordinary bonds that shape our lives in unexpected ways.